All right. The nerdrotic is chiming in about Supergirl. Oh, God. Oh, they have two trailers that were so bad that were in such close proximity. Supergirl and the Street Fighter sneak peek. Good Lord, man. Oh, that was a double dose of bad, a double dose of damage, man. Oh, I was tired, boss. Good Lord. Okay, let's see what Nerdrotic has to say. I'm sure he'll make me laugh just like the drinker did. By the way, make sure you get over and subscribe to Nerdrotic. Tell him Tyrone Magnus sent you. Y'all never know why I say that. If you know the movie I got the line from, then you get it. I'm here to fight for truth, justice, and the American way. Oh, yeah, they changed that a little for her. Nice montage, man. Like how that came in like that. I always thought he was running like Superman with that. That was like it felt like a throwback to Superman running, and I felt like they did that on purpose, like that. Showing all superhero greatness here. Nerdrotic. Yeah! Damn! Actually, that's the wrong one, though, right? Or is it? No, it's the right one. It's the right one.
Nerdrotic.
1 million lovers of all things good and dislikers of all things bad.
It just spoke to me and said, James Gunn thinks this is funny and great. And this funny.
I'm going out on a limb here by saying it hasn't been a good year for superhero films.
No.
Magnus said back in July of 2025, its future would be decided with the release of Superman and the Fantastic Four First Steps. And that answer came in the form of resounding mediocrity and diminishing returns. Which is sad because in many ways, superhero stories are American mythology, not only woven into the fabric of pop culture, but the entire culture. For generations, superheroes have captivated us with their embodiment of ultimate power and moral clarity, offering an escape into worlds where good triumphs over evil through extraordinary abilities and unwavering resolve. Their allure lies in the
Did he have soft shoulder pads in that? Was that for his real delts? I never noticed that before.
vicarious thrill of overcoming impossible odds, offering escapism where people can see themselves as agents of change in a chaotic reality. Ultimately, superheroes represent hope and aspiration while inspiring imagination, reminding us that there is the potential for heroism in all of us, even if it's in small everyday acts. And for a long period of time, Hollywood was able to, with varying degrees, capture this. So what the hell happened? Well, it's a tale as old as time with one recent addition. Greed, hubris, ego, and a slavish adherence to the message. At time of recording,
I was about to say, let's not forget that political messaging.
The trailer has just dropped, and
but you were on top of it, sir.
Scene pretty much sums up the genre, and believe me, we'll get to that. But considering just that scene and the Supergirl poster that says truth, justice, and whatever, I think it's safe to say they've had a good run, and superheroes are cooked.
Yeah, come on! Whoever did this, just confess. We promise we won't be mad.
But how could you say that? We've got Spider-Man Brand New Day and Doomsday coming out. Well, believe me, we'll get to that as well. But how do we get here? Well, there is a...
And they better be guaranteed bangers. I hope they are.
Plethora of videos on this channel explaining exactly why, but to keep this from being a 3-hour video, I'll keep this as brief as possible. Prior to 2020, Paramount and then eventually Disney were eating good with superhero films. The Marvel Cinematic Universe is something we will never see the likes of again. Phases 1 through 3 collectively featured 20...
I mean, I hope we do if they get back to basics. I mean, they claim that they're going to be back for Avengers Doomsday. It could happen again as long as they drop all the political messaging that's been going on. If they can drop that and start telling... See, because the political messaging was interfering with their stories. That's the reason why they've been bad. The storytelling was so horrible because people are rolling their eyes and keeling over and throwing up in the movie theater because they're so sick and tired of hearing this garbage constantly, the message constantly. So they get back to basics. I think it's salvageable. I'm saying I think. I'm not guaranteed sure because they've driven away so many people. But for the most part, I'm willing to give it a shot. I'm willing to give these movies a shot. I still review these movies. I still go to see these movies. I don't boycott anything. I don't think I boycott much. I may have boycotted things. I'm trying to think back, you know. Some people actively boycott and they let you know they're boycotting, you know. Like, I didn't feel like I was boycotting WWE. I just stopped watching it. You know, a lot of times when people boycott, they have a purpose in mind. You know, sometimes you just stop watching something. You fell out of love with it. You don't watch it anymore. But a boycott has a specific purpose to send a message to that company, to let them know you're dissatisfied and they need to change what they're doing. I don't. I enjoy reviewing them, even as bad or as good as they may be sometimes. Something is still interesting and fun to me for reviewing these movies and talking about them. There could be a point, though, to where I'm just like, I'm done. Not, you know. Yeah, so I don't know if that will ever come.
23 films that all, with the exception of The Incredible Hulk, were moderate successes to box office smashes, culminating in a box office total that is approximately $22.6 billion. And that includes the highest grossing superhero film of all time while adjusting for inflation, Avengers Endgame. And the majority of this was accomplished without their biggest character, Spider-Man, and completely without X-Men and Fantastic Four.
Ain't that wild? That's wild, right? I used to think that sometimes. I'm like, damn, we have Spider-Man in these movies and they're doing that damn good. You know? Like, Marvel made me love Ant-Man, Thor, Iron Man. Like a lot of the characters that were like these B-list characters that I never cared about, even when I read the comic books, Black Widow, Hawkeye. Like, I didn't care about a lot of them. Nick Fury. You know, I was mainly a Spider-Man, Wolverine, Hulk kid. That was mainly me. And I liked the X-Men from time to time. And, you know, whenever I was introduced to other characters, a lot of times it was because they crossed over with Spider-Man. I hope to God one day they do when Spidey goes cosmic. He punched the Gray Hulk into orbit. Man, that is one of my favorite comics of all time. But it's a whole series that they wrote and published over Amazing Spider-Man, Spectacular Spider-Man, and The Web of Spider-Man. I remember that because I got them all.
Turning B-list characters like Iron Man, Captain America, and Thor, and yes, they were B-list characters, and Black Panther into House...
Yeah! See? I was just talking about that! Yo, see, man, we right here, nerdrotic. We right here, man. Black Panther. Another one I never really cared about, you know what I'm saying? Blade. Blade started it all. He's a character I hardly knew about, you know? Even though I watched the animated series where they introduced him, but I didn't make that connection because I think it was only in a couple episodes, maybe one episode, you know, that 90s Spider-Man. Spider-Man, you know, that one. They made me love so many characters that I really didn't care about in the comics, man. So many. They did a fantastic job. Vision, Wanda. They really did, man.
Old names. A consistency that has never been seen in Hollywood and never will be seen again. And if Kevin Feige would have quit there, his legendary status would be remembered to the end of days and maybe beyond.
Right? Then he had to go and piss in his own souffle, his own masterpiece. Everyone's like, ooh, he took it out the oven. He was like, watch this. I'll make it even better. Trust me, you're going to like it. Everybody gasps. But there still were people eating it. Oh, it really was good.
They wouldn't just name streets after him. They would rename Hollywood Feige-wood.
Yeah.
You die a hero, or you live long enough to see yourself.
We get to go to Feige
And
World.
there's the other side of that coin prior to 2020, the much maligned Snyderverse, or DCEU. The first 3 films were destroyed by the corporate critics, and we'll just say there was a lukewarm reaction from the audience, but from the people who do like them, they liked them a lot. And after Zack Snyder had to leave after a family tragedy and the abysmal showing of the Justice League,
I think they used that to push him out. That's a lot of people's feeling. It was just like, okay, this happened behind the scenes. We were looking to move in a different direction and get somebody else in here. Let's say, this happened. Take the time off. Talk to us when you're, when you're good. In the meantime, hey, Josh, get over here. Listen, we need you to, you know what I'm saying? And it still didn't work. You know what I mean?
actually started picking up with Wonder Woman that was well received by the corporate critics and the audience. Aquaman, which made $1 billion and a film outside of the DCEU.
Another great
Joker,
movie.
which made $1 billion without China. And admittedly, both Aquaman and Wonder Woman had Zack Snyder's fingerprints all over it. But
Oh, they
reflecting
did.
the problems that they have with their source material publisher, DC Comics, they found themselves in the position of playing catch up to Marvel.
You still look at them though; they weren't financial flops. Like, they all made good money. You know what I'm saying? I'm just like that. So Man of Steel, Batman v Superman, Wonder Woman, and Aquaman. They all made good money. They all made their money back. For what I remember, I'm just trying to, I'm not. They all made a profit. That's what I meant to say. They all made a profit. So, and from what Zach was talking about with, Zack Snyder's Justice League, that did massive numbers, streaming wise, but we can't seem to get any, some real final data on that. But it crashed HBO Max. You know what I'm saying? So, something's up. But yeah.
A company that basically took everything they started in the comics and did it better. And this all had to do with Warner Brothers. Now, if Disney is Hollywood's most evil company, Warner Brothers is its dumbest due to studio interference causing all of their problems. And they were utterly dominated by Marvel except for one thing. Wonder Woman and its success combined with the Me Too Time's Up era made Kevin Feige blink and flush down the toilet a formula that was working just fine, bypassing decades of comic book lore that sold in the range of hundreds of thousands to millions, that rushed to adapt a more current era that was filled with race and gender swaps in comic books that were more likely than not canceled, that sold in the tens of thousands.
When I think about that, I think to myself, there's no way in his mind he could have thought that was really going to work. Like, I really think he did his job and sold the idea and continues to sell it. But I think he truly did not think it was going to work. But you got to get behind it and be that company, man. I can't see him being that. To be able to do what he did and then do that and continue to do it, nah.
Which includes the creation of the MCU.
Contractual obligations.
I think we're getting to a point soon where we have so many great female characters that those are just our heroes, as opposed to when they are all female, all male. It's just the Marvel heroes, more than half of which will be women. And since taking a year off from a government overreaction to a cold for both companies, it's been all downhill from there. Disney Marvel decided to go all in on the MCU and the message and bypass this thing known as a plan, leading to diminishing returns that should be taught in film schools. Phase 5 was an era of lore destruction, character vandalization, both male and female, and identity politics. From Black Widow, a prequel about a dead character that...
Every time I see She-Hulk doing that twerk, it always looks like a man twerking, doing that. Like, I'm wondering who was really in that. Like, they must have had a roided up chick in it. Or, because, you know, when you take steroids as a woman, all it does is transform your body into a man. Or maybe they did get a guy to do it. I don't know.
Formed so poorly it led to the film's star Scarlett Johansson suing Disney, with a good friend of Pepper Potts, who was now running Stark Industries, the Falcon not being able to get a bank loan where they insinuated to do his race, to the deification of the terrorist Freckle Jesus, to turning the Infinity Stones into paperweights, to attacking fans.
It took me a second. Freckle Jesus. I know who that is.
And She-Hulk, to making Thor a bumbling idiot, to making Nick Fury a fraud, to Hawkeye getting his ass kicked by Kate Bishop and Echo, to making the Kingpin cry, to the abysmal flop that was the Marvels, to centering both phases around the villain Jonathan Majors Kang, who should have been fired for his performance and not for his alleged allegations.
So I found the person that didn't like his performance in there. Yeah, I didn't know what was so great about it, but a lot of people liked him. So, you know, okay, cool. You know, that doesn't discount the fact that he's a great actor. You know, I saw Magazine Dreams. Like, that's Oscar worthy. Like, the dude's great. You know, he was great in Creed, 3 or whatever. So, but yeah, people liked it and they were going to go forward with it. And, I actually liked his portrayal of Kang in I'm gonna call it Multiverse of Madness. What am I thinking of? You know what I'm talking about. Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania. Until they made him look like a weak joke. And I get we heard the story behind the ants and why they were so strong. But if he's so formidable, why have him taken out by the ants like that? It should have been some other way that you're going to get rid of him, but whatever.
No. To the female Silver Surfer. Combine that with bloated budgets, bloated narratives, inconsistent storytelling, lack of focus, horrific CGI.
Hey, yo, man. This whole line you're taking me down is just like you brought me up, man. Like I was just, all the good feelings. And then as you're showing me more of everything that's slowly destroyed it, I'm just, my energy is just,
Content overload. It was a recipe for disaster. Speaking of content overload, Marvel Phases 1 through 3 had roughly 50 plus hours in content in total. Compare that to Marvel's Phase 4 and 5, which had a combined 100.
And I always talk about this. And I don't know where he's going with this, but when sometimes people talk about the homework you got to do. Nobody complained about homework you had to do in the movies when they were good, because everybody wanted to see them. Everyone wanted to see them. Everyone wanted to do their homework so they knew what was going on. And if it was good, people wouldn't have complained about there being too much. No. It had nothing to do with the quantity, all with the quality. That's what it had to do with. And that is why you fail.
100 plus hours of content, give or take. And if even half of it was good, we wouldn't be having this conversation.
See? Woo! Right here, nerdrotic. Yeah. Let's go out on the town, get the girls, and get some drinks. Yeah. Woo!
Sure, there were successes, and if it wasn't for those bloated budgets, there might have been more. But the only unquestionable ones are Spider-Man No Way Home and Deadpool and Wolverine. Both films were filled with cameos from characters largely out of the MCU, and 75% of Spider-Man...
Yeah, and all you people that are always like...
filled with cameos from characters
they can't continue the Snyderverse. Everybody's they're getting too old. Yeah, they're fine continuing the Snyderverse. If they ever do, they're fine. None of them are as old as Hugh Jackman, and he's still kicking ass and doing it.
out of the MCU, and 75% of Spider-Man's profits went to Sony. Speaking of Sony, because we don't want to leave them out of this, although they are easy to forget despite the success of the animated Miles Morales films and the inexplicable success of a couple of Tom Hardy Venom films, they've also given us bangers like the memeable Morbius and Kraven. You remember Kraven came out? And of course, the gloriously awful Madam Web. But there was one more success with Disney Marvel, the holdover Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, directed by James Gunn, who then fucked off to DC, where his first...
Yeah, everybody was like, yeah, you know why that was good? Because he made it before the whole woke wave came, but they just released it later. I was like, oh.
perceived act was to get rid of Henry Cavill as Superman. And Warner Brothers and James Gunn didn't do themselves any favors. Since the Joker's release in 2019, as far as films that have been released in theaters is concerned, they've had no less than 9 flops. That's right, Birds of Prey and the Fantabulous Emancipation of One Harley Quinn flopped. Wonder Woman 1984 flopped. The Suicide Squad, directed by James Gunn, flopped. Black Adam, flopped. Shazam! Fury of the Gods, flopped. The Flash, featuring Michael Keaton's return as Batman and 2 Ezra Millers, flopped. Let's talk.
Yeah, wasn't nobody talking trash about Michael Keaton saying he was too old. Everybody wanted to see his return, okay? There's older versions of these characters in the comic books, and they can make it work. Now, not everything in the comics works, and not everything live action works. But if you write it correctly and execute it properly, you can get it done, and it'll be a hit. So I don't want to hear none of that stuff about people being too old. Now, I get it. If they're just like dribbling, drooling, hey, you kids. That's different. They're not too old.
About Blue Beetle, it flopped. Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom flopped. And Joker 2 flopped. And their only real successes, The Batman, which is a divisive film, mostly due to its horrible third act. And the best thing...
I didn't think it was divisive. I know there were people that didn't like it, but wasn't it? Didn't it make its money back too? Anyway, I'm extremely excited for the second one. If they had given the universe to Matt Reeves, I would have been okay with that. Even though I still want the Snyderverse restored, I would have been way okay with that. Because the way that came out in the Penguin series, man, come on now.
They've done since Joker 2019, the Penguin series on HBO. And then there's James Gunn's Superman, which was neither a flop or a resounding success. It's the film equivalent of what our pal It's a Gundam calls a gassed up mid. Since 2020, combining TV shows and film, DC, Disney Marvel, and Disney Sony have produced 66 projects. And the vast majority of them have been mediocre to abysmal. Because again, if half of those projects were mediocre to good, we wouldn't be talking about superhero fatigue. I mean, could you blame anyone? Even the biggest fans? Christ, 66 projects?
Boy, that escalated quickly.
Everybody would be down with it. You know what I'm saying? You wouldn't be tired of it because it's all damn good. It's like, the fans are just kids in a candy store, just raining gumdrops, just raining sweetest fish, just raining Hershey's Kisses, okay? But it started raining doo-doo, and you wonder why everybody left the candy shop.
And I can hear you now, hypothetical dear viewer. Is it superhero fatigue or bad movie fatigue?
Well, here's my explanation of that, and I've always explained it. It's bad movie fatigue overall. Understand that? If you want to, you can say, well, people have superhero fatigue because the superhero movies are also under the umbrella of bad movies that they've been creating. All of the wokeified political garbage that they've been shoveling into everything. Everything is under the bad entertainment umbrella. Okay? That's gaming, comic books, television series, and movies. They're doing it to all of them. What people truly have is woke fatigue, bad movie fatigue, garbage fatigue, whatever you want to say. That's the main umbrella that they sit under. All that precipitation is seeping into the gaming, the comic books, the TV series, and the movies. So you could rightfully say superhero fatigue because The garbage fatigue is making them also garbage. But the root cause, the main umbrella, is the woke fatigue. That's what people are tired of. So you're both right. It's bad movie fatigue and it's superhero fatigue. But the root, the bigger cause, is the bad movie fatigue, which stems from the wokeness. Get it? All right.
The answer is yes. And now we need to talk about the future of
See?
superhero
Both.
movies. We'll start with Sony because this will be the easiest one to prognosticate, and arguably they made the smartest decision by canceling all the Spider-Man villain spin-offs. And they're just going to make Spider-Man movies, and the only one they're really doing on their own is the third Miles Morales film that'll come out someday. Side note on Miles Morales, the co-creator of this derivative character, Sarah Bocelli, recently reported she's getting 0 residuals. Now, while it's an undisputed fact that Miles Morales is Miles Morales, Marvel should still pay the lady. As far as the DCU is concerned, I would say it was looking pretty hopeful until Superman came out and James Gunn started running. Look
at that pajama outfit. Look how bad that damn suit is. Look at it. From the boots to the pants to the drawers. It looked like you're going to wake your little kid up. You bought him his Party City outfit, and he went to bed full of candy on Halloween night, and you waking him up in the morning. That's what that looks like.
Looking pretty hopeful until Superman came out and James Gunn started running his yapper, which has been the prime contributor to the DCU being so divisive. Aside from the fact that he should have probably focused more on making a good Superman film instead of planning an entire cinematic universe that he was going to change anyway, including announcing The Authority as your second film, which wasn't even originally a DC title that belonged to Jim Lee's Wildstorm. Now, it was a wise move for James Gunn to shit can that film, but what he's come out with so far is not exactly inspiring. And for starting an entire cinematic universe, it lacks any focus, narrative, or world building. But there is one commonality with all the projects he's produced with DC, from the Suicide Squad to Creature Commandos to Superman to Peacemaker. They all feature a ragtag group of smart-talking, irreverent, and semi-cynical heroes, but mostly anti-heroes, who come together due to some crisis and go on an adventure where they find the true meaning of heroism and found family. All set to a soundtrack of classic pop tunes or music from bands that would fit nicely in a mid-2000s Coachella lineup, which I know is totally different than Guardians of the Galaxy. But in all seriousness, as a fan of most of James Gunn's work, I did question if he was the right guy for Superman, and that was answered after I saw Superman. He's not the right guy. So far, we've gotten a cartoon nobody's watched, a Superman movie where Superman wasn't...
And I liked it. I liked Creature Commandos. They checked a couple of boxes, but overall, I really liked it, and I would like to see more, but we probably won't.
Very super, and the best character was Mr. Terrific, and he's introduced things like prisons.
The first season of Peacemaker was good. Second season, they went off the rails. Okay, and there was some good things that I liked, but overall, no.
Sex and a drug-filled bisexual adult soiree before things like Batman and Wonder Woman. And yes, Peacemaker Season 2 in particular.
Am I the only person that when I hear soiree, I think of Weird Science? I know I'm not the only one. It's the first time and the last time that I've heard it until he just said it.
Was as bad, if not worse, than any Disney Plus show. But absolutely none of it is aspirational or inspirational. Something that's vital in a Superman movie and for establishing the foundation of a DC universe. This brings us to the next film of the DCU, Supergirl, who was last seen at the end of Superman's James Gunn, where she called the Man of Steel a bitch.
Thanks for watching him, bitch!
Hey, look.
And James Gunn, where she called the Man of Steel a bitch. Supergirl,
look.
who was last seen at...
Look at that. That dude worked out. Look at that. When he's pointing, you can see the man's form under that. They threw that all away. That rivals Henry Cavill's body right there. That arm rivals Henry Cavill's arm. And they did that to that man with that suit. Shame on y'all.
The end of Superman's James Gunn, where she called the Man of Steel a bitch.
Thanks for watching him, bitch!
Does she look like she stinks? She looks like she stinks, and she needs a shower the way they make her, man. Good Lord.
you
Not
little
my
quince.
Supergirl.
We get it, man.
Oh, by the way, for all you people that always say, well, if you read the comic, it doesn't matter. You have to understand in the grand scheme of things, it doesn't matter if you've read the comic book. The translation to the big screen will work if it's executed properly for fans, okay? There are several stories that I've seen that kind of put into movies that, a lot of them were good, but not all of them. Like if you look at television series, all the stories from comics that were put into television series and into movies, not all of them were like super runaway hits with the fans in the comics. But some of them were done better live action. Some were done better in the comics. So it just depends. It all depends. It's all in how it's translated over. Okay? And it doesn't matter if it's one for one, if it's identical to the comic. It doesn't matter. It's like, as a comic book fan, you get it when you're watching a movie and someone tells you, yeah, this was based on a particular. Okay, I get it. There was a point in time when Supergirl's all messed up and she went through a phase, and I still don't like it. Doesn't matter. There are certain things like, that I didn't know about with like I ended up reading Injustice after seeing the Snyderverse take on it. And I didn't know what to expect. And as I was reading it, I was loving it. Absolutely loving Injustice. You see what I'm saying? Like it can translate properly. Now that I've seen it, it's like, okay, but there were certain aspects to Injustice that I didn't like. I was just like, hey, this is stupid. You know what I mean? So it doesn't mean that just because you've read the comic books, you're supposed to like it. How does that make sense?
You're edgy and cool. Yeah.
Now, the poster was revealed prior to the
You know the
trailer
story,
release,
so you're
where
supposed to
said,
like it.
Truth, justice, and whatever. Now, if they had used truth, justice, and the American way at any point in Superman, this might be justifiable. But considering they didn't, it looks like exactly what it is. More nihilism and cynicism. And the trailer certainly didn't help because, again, it opens up with Krypto peeing on the face of Superman on a newspaper. And for anyone trying to justify...
I'm glad he didn't have his mouth open. He had his mouth open like he was like, hi, everyone. That would have been, there are some people saying, no, we get it that you're angry that Krypto is disrespecting Superman. However, James Gunn's Superman needs to be pissed off. Like I've seen people saying that.
This by pointing out that Kara Zor-El is also on that newspaper. Stop it. The stream hits him right in the damn face. Bad decision. Sure, good job on creating conversations online, but it's not going to do anything to win people over. The only highlight was a 1-second silhouette of Lobo, but otherwise it just looked like another carbon copy of Guardians of the Galaxy.
It looks so much like
this
it.
line.
He sees the good in everyone. And I see the truth.
Just more irreverent, cynical nihilism. In other words, James Gunn's wheelhouse. But if you were wondering why there was so much gaslighting to make Superman look like more of a success than it was, well, we got our answer. WB's for sale to Netflix of all places, which is the worst possible news for any Lord of the Rings fan, Game of Thrones fan, Harry Potter fan, and particular DC fans. I mean, my first question is, what happens to DC Comics? Paramount is still in the mix, but what it does do is put James Gunn's long-term future in doubt, along with the long-term future of the superhero film being in doubt. And this brings us back to Marvel, whose next two films are undoubtedly going to be massive hits. And that's because both films are going to be absolutely packed with cameos. Spider-Man Brand New Day is going to feature the return of the Scorpion, the return of the Savage Incredible Hulk, and Punisher, among others. And while I can't be specific, but this character's name has already been floated out there, the introduction of the first MCU member of the X-Men. And then, of course, there's Doomsday that features everyone else. A film that may devolve into essentially being Robert Downey Jr. kills the Marvel Universe. A movie I think that's going to be a lot closer to Doctor Strange Mom rather than Infinity War or Endgame. Still, it's going to be a cameo fest that's going to make a lot of money, but as with Spider-Man No Way Home and Deadpool and Wolverine, it is not going to solve the long-term problems of the MCU or superhero films. Recently, the Doomsday teams were revealed, and they were mostly dudes, leading to 5s and 10s of women on Twitter decrying that they need the MCU back.
5s and 10s.
Collectively, that they have the short-term memory of a goldfish, considering we just got the female Silver Surfer and Ironheart a few short months ago.
MCU versus MCU. Now, even I was starting to feel it was a little MCU-y the last year or so. Maybe, it sounds horrible, but it was kind of getting crazy. I think Disney overall has had a little bit of an issue with that. No matter how many women you cram into these movies, for the most part, they don't go.
I'm sorry, could you speak into my good ear?
I know what you're thinking. The end is nigh. Grace Randolph just made a good point, but not to worry. She reverts back to form, forgets what she said a mere few seconds ago, and contradicts it.
But I think that we might have overcorrected a little bit. This is an extremely male-centric cast. And I think not only is it male-centric, but it doesn't have any female characters to excite female and LGBTQ audiences. You know what I'm talking about. Those of us who love Wicked, Barbie, the Disney live-action fairy tales, and even Avatar.
Haha, even Grace thinks Avatar is a movie for Barbie and Wicked fans. Anyways, to state the obvious, Disney Marvel has been making movies for those demographics for the last half-decade, and as you pointed out, Grace, they didn't show up. Barbie and Wicked Part 1 were successes because they were made for girls and gays. And they need to stop making superhero films for Wicked and Barbie fans.
This movie is for the comic book girlies and gays, so y'all better start reading, okay? I cannot wait for Supergirl, Woman of Tomorrow to come out.
Paraphrasing my good friend Chris Gore, turning Marvel into a girl brand will prove to be one of the costliest decisions in entertainment history. But again, getting rid of the MCU and replacing them with Cameo Fest doesn't even begin to fix the problem. You need to win not only dudes back, but normies of all makes, shapes, and sizes. But getting an audience back is much easier said than done. Think about this. The movie that technically started it all for Marvel, Blade, can't be made today. Well, they can, but they won't, because they've dialed things up to such ridiculous levels that it's not financially viable to go back to formula, which is what they need to do.
Back to formula.
Yes! And that is the absolute state of superhero films. They were the most healthy when you could make a solo superhero film. Long gone are those days, and remember when they made comic book films that weren't Marvel or DC? From 300 to Sin City to Dread to History of Violence to Kingsman to Kick-Ass to Hellboy to The Mask. We had it so good back then. Now, they'll be able to make Batman and Spider-Man movies forever, but keep in mind, the next Spider-Man movie is, again, filled with cameos. And what was the last Superman filled with? Cameos, when they should be able to survive just fine on their own against their arch villain. But now everything just looks like Ready Player One. But some of the main components of most modern superheroes that are missing are earnestness, aspiration, inspiration, and heroism. And that's because I think there are very few left in Tinseltown who either believe in that or even know what it means. I think the vast majority see Superman as Homelander. The hero has been deconstructed to death. What they've needed to do for years, and it's possibly too late, is reconstruct a hero. The reason films like Star Wars, Christopher Reeve's Superman, and Sam Raimi's Spider-Man hit like they did, aside from being great films, is they were well-timed. They were inspirational stories in bad times. And God knows we can use that right now, and I know some might feel that is childish or naive. Well, I'd rather be that than some nihilistic black-pilled twat. Because right now, Hollywood's just deconstructing the deconstruction. When everything's irreverent, then nothing is. And how in the hell can you subvert expectations when the expectation is the thing we love is going to be subverted? And that's why people are just over it, which is certainly reflected in those box office numbers. And that's why it shouldn't be a surprise to anyone that Crypto pissing on Superman's face is the encapsulation of the absolute state of superhero films, which is a damn shame because the degradation of our American mythology, including but not limited to Star Wars, Star Trek, and the superhero film, can match the degradation in pop culture and culture. And that's not a good thing. And we've gone from truth, justice, and the American way to truth, justice, and whatever. And if Hollywood doesn't care, why should we?
nerdrotic.com.
And that's why your pocket looks the way it does, Hollywood. Post your comments down below. Let me know what you all think. If you enjoyed my reaction, commentary, and thoughts, hit the like button, subscribe, and share. Did I say thoughts twice? Can't remember. 10 million subscribers. Woo!